So what's happening now is that the concept of business ecosystems are becoming front and center, right? These are two recent books. This is in the last 30 days that came out, but these are very good and they're up to date. Talking about how organizations can grow fast by simply partnering, but partnering in a very specific way. So I'm going to share with you 7 principles as to how Hire is doing this and kind of put it in context, though, of the energy business, all right? And I'll give you a short example of each one as we go through. So the first question you have to ask is, what is an ecosystem? This is kind of Deloitte's definition of this. I kind of like it because it talks about the fact that every ecosystem usually has an orchestrator with a bunch of actors around it that are coordinated by the orchestrator. But the orchestrator dominates what's going on. Now, the most valuable company in the world today is Apple, thank you, and they are a business ecosystem strategy, even though they don't talk about it necessarily like that. But in a strange way, they are, because all their app developers, you know, if you have a phone, the apps, those are all done by, you know, 19-year-olds that can code now, and you get lucky with a certain app, you can become a multimillionaire and so forth. So they have a very well-developed ecosystem of using other people's talent and capacity without paying for it, but they only pay for it when there's a sale. So performance, it's kind of pay for performance orientation. So Apple, and you could argue that some of the largest companies now who are aggregating partners in very specific ways, and technology is part of that, are starting to dominate the landscape, and they're going to be very difficult to displace. So what's happening now is that at the same time, because of technology, we are moving out of this post-industrial age to this age of the ecosystems, is what we've seen starting to happen. And the question is, are you going to be an actor or are you going to be an orchestrator? And if you're going to be an actor, you're going to have to start looking at your business very differently, because now I have to have more of a win-win mindset. I have to engage in a much larger value proposition that I only have a percentage of the value chain as opposed to trying to control all of the value chain. Now, if you believe in Michael Porter, this is the Michael Porter age, right? But this is essentially dissolving in front of us, because controlling the entire value chain of a business is extremely costly if I intend to control the value chain all the way through. Well, Apple doesn't control all of its value chain, and neither does Hire. I'll show you in a minute. So there are lots of benefits that start to accrue in this type of business model, and there's 8 up here. I'm not going to read this to you, but essentially imagine that I can get access to whatever capability I need like that fast, because the orientation is I don't buy it, I get access to it. And I negotiate a win-win situation that if you do your piece right, I do mine. Together, we will actually develop value that nobody else can do, because both of us together created a differentiation that's unique in the marketplace. And I'm simplifying this simply for the purposes of what's happening. But one of the things that's very unique at Hire is that 4,700 microenterprises are all on a pay-for-performance basis. This includes back office, right? And just as an example, 12 years ago or so, the HR department managing about 80,000 people globally was 854, just to give you the exact number. Today, the HR office at Hire, now running 100,000 plus, is 11. And, by the way, they only are allowed to stay in place as long as they're delivering value. So they have figured out how to use technology that the microenterprise would value, that would be better than anything they could get in the marketplace. So there's actually a market exchange even for all what we call cost in most business models. IT, finance, HR, those are all considered operational costs to the business. They have monetized this. So now you get the picture of how they're getting that gross margin constantly through eliminating waste and non-value-added activities, which is what we call lean. So it's very interesting. The dynamics have been set up to allow much more value to be created faster and on target in the marketplace.